Okay, students, for this Dewey-ing history debate, we're going to be talking about gun control. For our question-focused document, we're going to look at this headline, the front page from the Chicago Daily News in 1929. So I want you to look at this document, this front page of the newspaper, and try and think about how this past problem might be reflected in a problem of today. What is the newspaper reporting on? How might that be similar to news that we see today? After you've made a connection between the past and the present, generate a question about that document. What does this newspaper headline, what does this picture, what do these stories make you wonder? Just write a question of something that comes to mind. So we, in this assignment, are trying to find out what should be the goal of gun control policies. We're going to watch a video about Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden's plans for gun control.
Who in God's name needs a weapon that can handle 100 rounds? For God's sake. I think we have to, in fact, have universal background checks, eliminate assault weapons as being illegal to be sold or owned in the United States, as well as limiting the number of bullets that can be in a clip to 10.
So it didn't say in the video, but what is the problem today related to gun control? In the last few years, luckily not this year, what has there been a number of? Why is that causing people to think about gun control? Joe Biden has just been talking about what his plan would be. He said he'd have universal background checks. He would eliminate assault weapons and limit the number of bullets in a clip. Why do you think people would support this? We're going to listen to what Joe Biden says about all of the gun violence.
Recent events illustrate again and with chilling vividness the tragedy that results from the wide and easy availability of guns with firepower that overwhelms our police, of weapons that have, in my view, no place in hunting or sport, and whose only real function, is to kill human beings at a ferocious pace.
Was the assault weapons ban effective?
It was effective in the sense that there were fewer mass shootings that occurred, so I think it reduced anxiety considerably.
Gun owners out there who say, well, my guns.
Bingo, you're right.
Okay, let's go back 1 second here. So based on the things that Joe Biden said, how did he describe the violence? What were his thoughts on gun violence today? And why would that cause people to support these kinds of restrictions on guns? What we're going to listen to right now, the question that newscaster is asking President-elect Biden, and how that would lead to people opposing his solutions, and think just broadly about what the Second Amendment says.
Say, well, a Biden administration means they're going to come for my guns.
Bingo, you're right if you have an assault weapon.
Okay. Why would a gun owner not be happy about the idea of Joe Biden's plan? What did they just say they believe Joe Biden would do? So we're going to watch the rest of the video, and that help you make up your mind on whether or not you support or oppose Joe Biden's plan to fight gun violence.
The fact of the matter is they should be illegal, period.
It's time for Congress to require a universal background check for anyone trying to buy a gun.
unless it has your biometric print on it. Now, if that technology exists for that reason, why in God's name can't every single solitary weapon being sold in America? Why? Why is it such that we can't require, without violating anyone's Second Amendment right, that every single weapon sold can only be, the trigger can only be pulled by the person who has the biometric marker to pull it? Imagine how many lives we'd save. You can determine the outcome. You, the people between 18 and 25, if you vote in the same percentage that others voted, that the population at large voted, we'd have over 5 million additional votes. And you know the consequences of this one issue of gun violence. You understand it. So get engaged. Help us change the way we deal with these issues.
All right. So on one hand, you have people who believe that the gun violence today is quite tragic, that people are dying because of these weapons and their availability, and other people who don't want weapons taken away. So do you support or oppose Joe Biden's plan to combat gun violence? Make sure you explain why. Now it's time to go back in time, and we're going to study House Resolution 9006. It's the taxation of manufacturers, importers, and dealers in small arms and machine guns. Again, trying to find what should be the goal of gun control policies. So here's our case study. We need to find out what this would do to restrict firearms. For the purpose of this act, the term firearm means a pistol, revolver, shotgun having a barrel less than 16 inches in length, and any other firearm capable of being concealed on the person, a muffler or silencer thereof, or a machine gun. A machine gun is any weapon which shoots automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single trigger pull. This is a new type of weapon, so we need to understand that we're talking about machine guns. Section 2. Every importer, manufacturer, and dealer in the firearms shall register with the IRS and pay a special tax. B. It shall be unlawful for any person required to register under the provisions of this section to not pay the tax. Section 3. There shall be a tax of $5,000 a year on importers or manufacturers of firearms, a $200 a year tax on dealers, a $200 fee for each machine gun sold, and a $1 tax on any other firearm. Section 7. Each manufacturer and importer of a firearm shall identify it with a number or other identification mark. What's important here is we're now getting serial numbers, which is going to allow law enforcement to track where a gun was purchased. Come back up here real quick to Section 3. It's a $200 fee for each machine gun, $1 tax on other firearms. All of these taxes right here, basically this is creating a paper trail for the government. It doesn't necessarily prevent someone from buying any gun. It just increases the cost by having them pay a tax. Section 8 is important because importers, manufacturers, and dealers shall keep records of all firearm transactions. And why do we need to have records? Why do we want to know who has the guns, where the guns came from? Section 13. Any person who violates or fails to comply with any of the requirements of this act shall, upon conviction, be fined not more than $2,000 or be imprisoned for not more than 5 years, or both, in the discretion of the court. Section 17. This act may be cited as the National Firearms Act. Note that in 1934, a Thompson machine gun cost $200, so a tax of $200 would make it even less affordable. $200 in 1934 was worth $3,658.06 in 2017. So doubling that, you're almost $8,000 for this gun. So what is important about this legislation? By putting taxes on the guns, we're not just making them more expensive to own, we're also creating paper trail, and we're making it a crime to not just have the gun. You can own the gun legally, but if you didn't pay the tax, then it is illegal. So we're not making it illegal to own the guns, we're just making it more work to own the gun.
The machine gun has become exclusively an instrument for sure, swift, and certain wholesale murder by daring assassins. Now, it's perfectly easy and simple to wipe out machine guns entirely. All that is necessary is for each legislature to pass a law prohibiting not only the sale, but the manufacture of machine guns within its borders. The thing is done. Now, why don't we all try to do our part in this very simple way, at least? Talk to our legislators and keep talking to them until next year every state will pass a law wiping out the machine gun whatever and wherever it is found as an instrument of crime.
These are a collection of guns taken from many well-known gangsters, some of whom are now dead. This 45 Colt automatic was found lying alongside of Dean O'Banion at the scene of his murder in his floral shop at 740 North State Street. The guns taken from Joe Salter. These 3 guns were taken from James McManus.
This is the actual machine gun that was used in the killing of Jaime Weiss some time ago, and I'll be glad to fire it off for you.
This street marks gangland's greatest outrage, the machine gunning of 5 little children in cold blood. The street was filled with youngsters like these when the gangsters unleashed a hail of lead that swept the sidewalks. The bullets left their deadly imprint on the walls of the tenements. The children fled in terror. One bullet just missed a mother watching her little boy from this open window. Here is Samuel Davino, only 5 years old, pointing to where he was shot in the leg by gangland's ruthless gunmen. But poor little Samuel is more fortunate than Michael Bengali, also 5. Michael met death, and this casket will hold his tiny body, broken by machine gun bullets. Firearms must go.
We can never be free from the menace of promiscuous killings till the possession of firearms is everywhere restricted to persons of known character. To this end, I shall press my bill for passage through the United States Senate.
After watching that video, what all can we tell about what was going on at the time? So not just that these weapons were being used, but who was using them? What were they using them for? And who were suffering as casualties of these conflicts. It wasn't just gangsters shooting at the gangsters. Because these gangsters were operating in the cities, there were some innocent victims, wasn't there? Think about those little two boys. That's going to end part 1. I'll make another video for the second half of the assignment.